Hare Krishna to all dear devotees. Hare Krishna Daiva Shakti Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Mataji, whenever you are ready, you can please start, Mataji. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tator Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhakti Anaitake. Today we'll be reading from Canto 10, chapter 14, text 24. Those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master can see you in this way as the very soul of all souls, the super souls of everyone's own self. Thus, understanding your original personality, they are able to cross over the ocean of illusory material existence. Text 25. A person who mistakes a rope for a snake becomes fearful, but he then gives up his fear upon realizing that the so-called snake does not exist. Similarly, for those who fail to recognize you as the supreme soul of all souls, the expansion illusory material existence arises, but knowledge of you at once causes it to subside. Text 26. The conception of material bondage and the conception of liberation are both manifestations of ignorance. Being outside the scope of true knowledge, they cease to exist when one correctly understands that the pure spirit soul is distinct from matter and always fully conscious. At that time, bondage and liberation no longer have any significance, just as day and night have no significance from the perspective of the sun. Text 27. Just see the foolishness of those ignorant persons who consider you to be some separated manifestation of illusion and who consider the self, which is actually you, to be something else, the material body. Such fools conclude that the Supreme Soul is to be searched for somewhere outside your Supreme Personality. Text 28. O unlimited Lord, the saintly devotees seek you out within their own bodies by rejecting everything separate from you. Indeed, how can discriminating persons appreciate the real nature of a rope lying before them until they refute the illusion that it is a snake? Text 29. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the supreme personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Text 30. My dear Lord, I therefore pray to be so fortunate that in this life as Lord Brahma or in another life, wherever I take my birth, I may be counted as one of your devotees. I pray that wherever I may be, even among the animal species, I can engage in devotional service to your lotus feet. Text 31. O Almighty Lord, how greatly fortunate are the cows and ladies of Vrindavan, the nectar of whose breast milk you have happily drunk to your full satisfaction, taking the form of their calves and children. All the Vedic sacrifices performed from time immemorial up to the present day have not given you as much satisfaction. Text 32. How greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men, and all the other inhabitants of Rajbhumi. There is no limit to their good fortune because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal supreme Brahman, has become their friend. Text 33. Yet, even though the extent of the good fortune of these residents of Vrindavan is inconceivable, we even We 11 presiding deities of the various senses, headed by Lord Shiva, are almost most fortunate, because the senses of these devotees of Vrindavan are the cups through which we repeatedly drink the nectarian, intoxicating beverage of the honey of your lotus feet. Text 34. My greatest possible good fortune would be to take any bird wherever in this forest of Gokul and have my head bathed by the dust falling from the lotus feet of any of its residents. Their entire life and soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukunda, the dust of whose lotus feet is still being searched for in the Vedic mantras. Text 35. My mind becomes bewildered, just trying to think of what reward other than you could be found anywhere. You are the embodiment of all benedictions, which you bestow upon these residents of the cowherd community of Vrindavan. You have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members in exchange for her disguising herself as a devotee. So, what is left for you to give these devotees of Vrindavan, whose homes, wealth, friends, dear relations, bodies, children, and very lives and hearts are all dedicated only to you? Text 36. My dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and desires remain thieves. Their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate feelings for their family members remain foot shackles. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Vamsi Vadandas Prabhuji, please accept our humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Prabhuji, please take over the presence.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Is it possible to turn on the sharing? I'm not able to share. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll begin quickly with prayers with Mangala Charan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hare Paramatmane Pranatakleshaya Nashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Om Ajnanatimirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatyarya Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Firstly, I would like to offer my respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis to please bless me so that we simply repeat the words of Srila Prabhupada and the great Acharyas on these glorious verses from Srimad Bhagavatam titled Lord Brahma's Prayers to Lord Krishna. So today we'll be going back and forth between Srimad Bhagavatam purports written by the humble disciples of Srila Prabhupada and the Krishna book, where Srila Prabhupada directly commented on all the chapters of the 10th canto. So in text 26 or in text 24, so text 24, what it is said is, those who have, Lord Brahma is continuing to pray to Krishna, those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master can see you in this way as the very soul of all souls, the super soul of everyone's own self. Thus, understanding your original personality, they are able to cross over the ocean of illusory material existence. So, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they write in the purport that when someone truly understands Krishna's birth, his appearance, activities, and that is all transcendental, it is not mundane, does not upon leaving the body take his birth again in this material world, but attains Krishna's eternal abode. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So this is what we are all aspiring for, that through the process of bhakti, through purification, by the grace of Guru and Krishna, we truly understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and his activities. It is revealed to us through the mercy of Sri Guru and Krishna himself, by his own mercy, costless mercy. And text 25, Lord Brahma is going to speak in some analogy. He is saying a person who mistakes a rope for a snake becomes fearful, but he then gives up the same fear upon realizing that snake is no longer a snake. It doesn't exist in reality. Similarly, for those who fail to recognize you as a super soul of all souls, the expansive illusory energy existence arises immediately. But knowledge of you at once causes it to subside. So Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they write in the purport that to be trapped in a world in which all things are born and die is certainly fearful experience. Anyone trapped in a dark place naturally becomes fearful, isn't it? We all have that experience, that we become fearful when there is darkness surrounding our consciousness. It doesn't have to be necessarily in a dark room, but when our consciousness is clouded, Srila Prabhupada always uses this word, consciousness becoming clouded. When our consciousness is clouded, we become fearful. This dark snake-like existence called material life immediately disappears as soon as one opens his eyes to the bright light of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they write that as soon as we take up to Krishna consciousness, there is no more darkness. Right? In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Srila Krishnaj Kaviraj Goswami says this. Wherever there is Krishna, there is no darkness. And Srila Prabhupada writes in text 25 in the Krishna book, if by the association of your devotees a person comes to the knowledge that Lord Krishna is the original super soul, then it is possible for him to cross over the ocean of material existence, material ignorance. Our ignorance can be dispelled only through the association of pure devotees. For instance, when a person mistakes a rope for a snake, he is filled with fear. But as soon as he understands that the rope is not a snake, he is liberated from fear. And this ignorance, destruction of this ignorance comes only through the association of pure devotees. Satam prasangam mamavirya samvido bhavanti hrit rasayana kata. That the knots in the heart are cut through when we hear pure transcendental vibration from the lips of pure devotees. If one understands you, therefore, through your personal teachings, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's writing, or through the teachings of your pure devotees, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam can be relished only by pure devotees who are nirmat saranam satam, who are completely non-envious. They don't have absolutely a tinge of envy in their heart. And Krishna reveals through them to us the actual purport of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when we understand that, Prabhupada is saying, if one realizes that you are the ultimate goal of understanding, he need no longer fear this material existence. And that fearlessness comes when we hear either directly from Krishna, but at a conditioned state, we cannot truly understand the purport of what Krishna is saying. So we have to hear from the lips of pure devotees. And Srila Prabhupada himself is directly saying, through the teachings of pure devotees. The pure devotees teach us how to understand Bhagavad Gita, how to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. And through those teachings, by the grace of Krishna, the fear of material existence ceases for a conditioned soul like us. And then in text 26, the conception of material bondage and conception of liberation are both manifestation of ignorance. All these conceptions that we have in our consciousness due to the cloud covering is due to ignorance. And the disciples, humble disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they write in the purport, material bondage is illusion because the living entity actually has no real relationship with the material world. This is our problem. Our problem is we try to put our mind and our senses thinking that we are related to this world. Because of this false ego, the conditioned soul identifies himself with matter. We immediately identify with matter. Therefore, so-called liberation is simply the giving up of an illusion rather than release from actual bondage. It is this illusion that needs to be cut. Yet, even if we think that suffering of material illusion is real and that the liberation is thus meaningful release from suffering, the mere absence of material existence is still insignificant compared to the achievement of factual spiritual life, which is positive eternal reality opposed to negative illusion of material life. Ultimately, we have to take up to Krishna consciousness or pure love of Godhead is the only significant, meaningful, permanent status of every living entity, which is what we are all aspiring for. Right? Unless we come to true, real love for Krishna, this ignorance will keep clouding our consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, when the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. So for those who always remain in your presence by engaging in your service, there is no question of bondage or liberation. They are already liberated. On the other hand, persons who falsely think themselves to be liberated without taking shelter of your lotus feet fall down because their intelligence is not pure. So this is very important for us to contemplate, that we should not falsely think ourselves to be liberated, because we have to take complete shelter of Krishna. Krishna expects soul's shelter on his lotus feet. No strings attached to anything in this material creation. Krishna is really expecting that from us. We have to aspire for that. Sometime by the grace of Guru and Krishna, we will actually be able to take complete shelter of Krishna, whatever may be the situation in our life. And that is when we can experience complete light. No question of darkness or illusion in our consciousness. And in text 27, Lord Brahma continues, just see the foolishness of those ignorant persons who consider you to be some separate manifestation of illusion. Or for instance, there are personalities in this world who consider Krishna is not the super soul. The super soul needs to be searched somewhere outside of Krishna. Lord Brahma this is directly from Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is one of the 12 Mahajans. And he is our Sampradaya Acharya. He is speaking as an Acharya to the whole world. And in the purport it is mentioned, Lord Brahma is amazed at the gross ignorance of conditioned souls who consider Lord Krishna's supreme spiritual body to be material. Lord Brahma himself is surprised because Lord Brahma has had darshan of Krishna. Ignorant of the spiritual form of the Lord, such persons also consider their own material bodies to be self. Lord Krishna himself says, right, Yasyasma buddhi kunapi tridatuke Sa eva gokaraha. Krishna says that in the 10th canto later. That because we don't have the spiritual vision, because we consider the body as the self, therefore we conclude the spiritual reality to be found somewhere is to be found beyond Krishna. Because we are all in bodily consciousness, we have this understanding. Unfortunately, such speculators are not inclined to hear from the Lord Himself or from the Lord's authorized representatives such as Lord Brahma. This is very important. We have to hear from authorized representatives, beginning from Lord Brahma through the disciplic succession. Then by the grace of Krishna, we can really understand Krishna. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. To understand Krishna becomes very difficult for us because the illusion covering, Krishna himself says, Yogamaya Samavrita. Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavrita. He says that it is, Krishna is covered if you don't go through the process that he is teaching us to understand him. And Krishna, in Srila Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, if one therefore thinks that the super soul is something different from your personality and thus searches out the super soul somewhere else, in the forest, in the caves of Himalayas, his condition is very lamentable. Your teachings in Bhagavad Gita are that one should give up all other process of self-realization and simply surrender unto you, for that is complete. Srila Prabhupada is again and again reminding us, there is no other way other than surrender. Because you are the supreme in every respect, those who are searching after the Brahman effulgence are also searching after you. And those who are searching after super soul realization are also searching after you. You state in Bhagavad Gita that you yourself, by your partial representation as a super soul, have entered into the material cosmic manifestation. You are present in everyone's heart, and there is no need to search out super soul anywhere else. If someone does so, he is simply in ignorance, Srila Prabhupada stating. One who is transcendental to such a position understand that you are unlimited and you are both within and without. Therefore, your presence is everywhere. This is the vision of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, who can see Krishna everywhere. Because they are transcendental to all these misconceptions. And by the grace of Krishna, they are able to see Krishna everywhere. Right? Even Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that a pure devotee sees everywhere. Sthavara Changama Teke Ya Sarvatra Haya Nija Ishtadeva Spurti. That a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada sees Krishna everywhere in every living entity, in every animate and inanimate objects. That is the vision of a pure devotee. And in text 28, O unlimited Lord, the saintly devotees seek you out within their own bodies by rejecting everything separate from you. Indeed, how can discriminating persons appreciate the real nature of a rope lying before them until they refute the illusion that is a snake? So in the purport it is said, one may argue that a person should cultivate self-realization, at the same time pursue sense gratification for the material body. This proposition is herein refuted by the example of misidentifying a rope with a snake. One who mistakes a rope for a snake becomes fearful and thinks of the so-called snake. But upon discovering that the snake is actually a rope, he experiences relief and then can ignore the rope. Srila Prabhupada is writing, instead of searching for the super soul somewhere else, a devotee only concentrates his mind on Krishna within. Actually, one who is liberated from the material concept of life can search for you. Others cannot. So that is why Srila Prabhupada often says that true pure devotional service begins when Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim lavate param. Prabhupada quotes this so many times in his classes, so many times in his purports, that only when somebody is liberated from this material concept of life can actually search for you. The example of thinking the rope to be a snake is applicable only to those who are still in ignorance of you. Actually, when one mistakes a rope for a snake, the existence of the snake is only within the mind. Srila Prabhupada is coming to the root. The existence of Maya similarly is only within our mind. Maya is nothing but ignorance of your personality. Right? That is why Srila Prabhupada says Maya means that which is not. And Prabhupada is giving some granularity to his statement here. That the existence of Maya is existing only within our mind. When we forget Krishna's personality, that is the conditioned state of Maya. As soon as we turn away from Krishna, Maya captures us. Our Acharyas explain. Therefore, one who is fixed upon you both internally and externally is not illusion. These are some very enlightening words Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here. We have to constantly meditate upon this and try to follow in his footsteps. In text 29, my Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. This is a very important verse, often quoted by our Acharyas and our Gurujans. In the purport, it is mentioned, and they are quoting the humble disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they are quoting Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita purport. Lord Krishna is very eager to bestow his mercy upon the conditioned living beings who are uselessly struggling within the Lord's illusory energy Maya. The conditioned soul struggles for happiness through sense gratification and for knowledge through mental speculation. Both processes ultimately bring him to morose and hopeless condition. If the conditioned soul surrenders to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and thus acquires even a trace of his causeless mercy, the whole situation is changed. And the living entity can begin his real life of bliss and knowledge in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada is writing that if the conditioned soul surrenders to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the whole situation changes, Prabhupada is writing. Again, Prabhupada, wherever Srila Prabhupada writes, he will try to bring us and remind us to the point that we must endeavor to surrender to Krishna. One has attained a little result of devotional service can understand your glories, Srila Prabhupada is stating. Even one striving for Brahman realization or Paramatma realization cannot understand these features of your personality unless you bestow on him the result of at least a slight bit of bhakti. Even any other process, even Brahman or Paramatma, requires bhakti. Without bhakti, we cannot realize Krishna. One may be the spiritual master of many impersonalists, or he may go into the forest or to a mountain cave and meditate as a hermit for many years. But he cannot understand your glories without being favored by a slight degree of bhakti. That is a wonderful effect of bhakti, Srila Prabhupada is stating. That Krishna is expecting only bhakti from us. Ultimately, it is only bhakti that can understand Krishna. Right? That is why Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati. Tad aham bhakti upakritam ashnami prayatatmana. That Krishna mentions 2 times bhakti in that. Always stressing on bhakti. Because it is only that devotion that Krishna wants to taste from his devotee. And in text 30 and 31, we will directly read from Srila Prabhupada's purport. Therefore, my dear Lord, I pray that I may be so fortunate that in this life or in another life, wherever I may take birth, I may be counted as one of your devotees. This is just amazing prayer by Lord Brahma. Wherever I may be, I pray that I may be engaged in your devotional service. I do not even care what form of life I get in the future, because I can see that even in the form of cows and calves or cowherd boys, the devotees are so fortunate to be always engaged in your transcendental loving service and association. Therefore, I wish to be born one of them instead of such an exalted person as I am now. He is speaking. Lord Brahma is speaking. For I am full of ignorance. The gopis and the cows of Vrindavan are so fortunate that they have been able to supply their milk to you. Persons who are engaged in performing great sacrifices and offering many valuable goats in sacrifice cannot attain the perfection of understanding you. But simply by bhakti, these innocent village women and cows are all able to satisfy you with their milk. You have drunk their milk to satisfaction, yet you are never satisfied as much by those engaged in performing sacrifices. Lord Brahma is praying such enlightening prayers. He wants to be born in any form so that at least he can practice some bhakti. He doesn't even worry about what form he is going to be born. Our acharyas, our Gurujan from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they say this is the mission statement for all of us in our life. If we want to ask ourselves, what do we want to get out of practicing bhakti? Lord Brahma is teaching us as an acharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed this in his Shikshashtakam prayers, right? Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhakti rahaituki tvai. That Mahaprabhu is also praying, teaching us that we only want life after life bhakti. And Lord Brahma is also praying and he is glorifying the residents of Vrindavan, that they were able to serve Krishna, and which is what Brahma is also aspiring. And in text 32, this is a very famous verse. Aho bhagyam nandagopa vrajaukasam yan mitram paramanandam purnam brahma sanatanam. How greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men and all other inhabitants of Rajbhumi. There is no limit to their fortune, Lord Brahma is saying. Because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal supreme Brahman has become their friend. Yan mitram paramanandam. And Srila Prabhupada writes, I am simply surprised, therefore, with the fortunate position of Maharaj Nanda, Mother Yashoda, and the cowherdmen and the gopis, because you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, are existing here as their most intimate, lovable object. My dear Lord, no one can actually appreciate the good fortune of these residents of Vrindavan. And in text 33, I will read both because there are two aspects given. Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they write that yet even though the extent of good fortune of these residents of Vrindavan is inconceivable, we 11 presiding deities of various senses headed by Lord Shiva are almost fortunate because the senses of these devotees of Vrindavan are the cups through which we repeatedly drink the nectarian intoxicating beverage of the honey of your lotus feet. And Srila Prabhupada writes, we are all demigods, controlling deities of various senses of the living entities. And we are proud of enjoying such privileges. But actually there is no comparison between our position and the position of these fortunate residents of Vrindavan. Why? Srila Prabhupada is saying because they are actually relishing your presence and enjoying your association by dint of their sensory activities. Srila Prabhupada is writing, we may be proud of being controllers of the senses. The demigods are controller of our senses. But here the residents of Vrindavan are so transcendental that they are not under our control. Because they are Nitya Siddhas. They are coming from the spiritual world. Actually, they are enjoying their senses through service to you. I shall therefore consider myself fortunate to be given a chance to take birth in this land of Vrindavan in any of my future lives. Right? Because the residents of Vrindavan are enjoying their senses through service to Krishna. This is something for us to meditate upon. Srila Prabhupada always mentions that by serving Krishna through our senses, we can please Krishna and then our senses also become satisfied. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. In text 34, there is some purport directly from Srila Prabhupada's purport. It is written, in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada reveals the mind of Brahma as follows. But if I am so fortunate as to take birth within the forest of Vrindavan, I beg to be allowed to take birth outside the immediate area of Vrindavan, so that when the devotees go out, they will walk over me. even though would be a great fortune for me, I am just simply aspiring for a birth in which I am smeared by the dust of the devotees' feet. And in the purport, it is also quoted that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Brahma is willing to take birth even as a stone in a paved footpath in the Lord's abode. Since Brahma is the creator of the entire universe, we can imagine the glorious position of the residents of Vrindavan. In text 34, that Lord Brahma wants to take the dust of the lotus feet of the residents of Vrindavan. This is the nature of an exalted devotee. An exalted devotee wants to take the dust of the feet of the residents of Vrindavan. Even Uddhava prays like this later in the 10th canto. In text 35, Lord Brahma continued, "My Lord, sometimes I am puzzled as to how your Lordship will be able to repay in gratitude the bhakti of these residents of Vrindavan. Although I know that you are the supreme source of all benedictions, I am puzzled to know how you will be able to repay all the service that you are receiving from these residents of Vrindavan, because they are selflessly serving with so much spontaneous love to Krishna. I think of how you are so kind, so magnanimous, that even Putana, who came to cheat you by dressing herself as a very affectionate mother, was awarded liberation. And the actual post of a mother and other demons belonging to the same family, such as Agasur, Bakasur, were also favored liberation, achieved you. Under these circumstances, I am puzzled. These residents of Vrindavan have given you everything: their body, minds, love, their homes, their possessions. When Srila Prabhupada says Sarvadharman Parityajya, the Vrajavasis are personification of that statement. True personifications of their statement is they have given their body, mind, their everything to Krishna. Everything is being utilized for your purpose by the Vrajavasis. So how will you be able to repay your debt to them? You have already given yourself to Putana. I surmise that you shall ever remain a debtor to the residents of Vrindavan, being unable to repay their loving service. These are just sweet prayers by Lord Brahma to Krishna, that he is telling Krishna, you will never be able to repay the Vrajavasis for their love. And in text 36, it is said, the last prayer for today, "My dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and desires remain thieves, their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate feelings for their family members remain foot shackles." And in the purport, it is mentioned that the residents of Vrindavan, the abode of Lord Krishna, are simple householders engaged in ordinary affairs such as herding cows, cooking, rearing children, and performing religious ceremonies. However, all these activities are intensely engaged in loving service of Krishna. And they are done in pure Krishna consciousness. So we should not consider these to be ordinary activities like ordinary souls of this world do. They are doing out of complete spontaneity, spontaneous love for Krishna. Otherwise, it will cause bondage in this world. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada's humble disciples, they write, if we engage our family in the loving service of the Lord, our endeavors to maintain our family become part and parcel of our progressive spiritual duties. This is very important for us to try to imbibe this principle, that we have to engage our family in loving service of Krishna. In conclusion, by studying the extraordinary status of the residents of Vrindavan, we can see that the essential quality of their lives is pure Krishna consciousness, the rendering of loving service to Krishna without a trace of material desire or mental speculation. Such loving service to the original personality of Godhead immediately creates an atmosphere of Sri Vrindavan Dham, the kingdom of God. That we have to aspire to perform bhakti without any material desire or mental speculation, only for the satisfaction of Guru and Krishna. This is what Srila Rupa Goswami explains in Nectar of Devotion, right? Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Anukul for Krishna and Guru. That is Uttama Bhakti. And when we perform such bhakti, it is mentioned in the purport that immediately the atmosphere of Vrindavan Dham, the kingdom of God, is created. And Srila Prabhupada writes, I will just quote Srila Prabhupada and we'll complete with this. My Lord, I can understand that the super excellent quality of the service rendered by the residents of Vrindavan is due to their spontaneously engaging all natural instincts in your loving service. It is said that the attachment for material objects and home is due to illusion, which makes a living entity conditioned in this material world. But this is only the case for persons who are not Krishna conscious. In the case of residents of Vrindavan, such obstructions as attachment to hearth and home are non-existent, because their attachment has been directed onto you and their homes have been converted into temples by your constant presence there. And because they have forgotten everything for your sake, there is no impediment. For a Krishna conscious person, there is no such a thing as impediments due to attachment for hearth and home. There is, nor is there illusion. Srila Prabhupada ends with some enlightening words for us to remember Sri Vrindavan Dham. And what is Sri Vrindavan Dham? Srila Prabhupada is writing, because of the attachment that the Vrajavasis have onto Krishna, their homes have been converted into temples by Krishna's constant presence there. And because they have forgotten everything for your sake, there is no impediment for them. Okay, we will stop here with these enlightening words of Srila Prabhupada. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Well said. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.